Hello everyone, my name is Sint, and I'm here today to bring you the guide for my build for Cat-Eye Erika in Torchlight Infinite. So the build you can currently see on screen right now is a full on-hit erosion, dex stacking corrosive throw build. For a quick overview of the tree, because I know some people don't really enjoy sitting through a whole video explaining every single detail of a build, pros and cons are as follows. For pros, it's a very quick build, it's very good for farming, breezes through tier 7s like it's nothing at its current investment level. It has great clear through just a couple of pierce nodes on the passive tree, and the damage scales very well into the endgame because we're looking into changing the build in its later stages into a deck stacking as well as getting fervor from a couple of unique items. As an added benefit, you can also level with the skill from pretty early on, as long as you have the new leveling chest piece that gives you a ton of energy for unlocking a 6 link very early on. For cons, it has a very active playstyle. Most Cat-Eye Erika builds do. You need to keep moving to sustain your Stalker's charges, so there's not much you can do to play around that. It's just something that you need to accept if you're going to play an Erika build. Next, you also have a lot of repositioning happening to maintain your maximum output. And this is paired with another disadvantage, which is you need to be in melee for the most part. Even though the skill is a ranged skill that you can use from afar, for maximum damage you need to stay in melee, and that's due to a couple of passive tree skills that I'll speak for in a moment. Lastly, defensive. This version is not phenomenal. I couldn't get it much tankier than this. I could maybe get a little bit more health here and there, but for defensives it feels very awkward, especially in tier 8s. Everything below that is fine, so if you're gonna look at this build as a farming build, don't worry too much about that, I would say. Certainly on tier 7s and below, you'll be fine. But on tier 8s, the defensives start lacking a little bit. Maybe you can tweak it here and there to make it a bit tankier and sacrifice a little bit of damage. But on the version I'll showcase, yes, the defensives are not phenomenal. Lastly, deck stacking gear can get pretty expensive. It's a very end-game popular way of scaling damage, so some items can get pretty expensive, as we'll see. Alright, so first let's begin with our passive tree. I take Goddess of the Hunting, Marksman and Ranger. On Ranger I take Fluke and keep it up as the big nodes to scale our fervor damage. In Marksman I take Gale and Close Range Fire. Close Range Fire is a big deal. This is the reason why we want to stay in melee for maximum DPS, as the closer we are, the more damage you do, up to 35% additional damage. It's a very big amount of damage and you will want to maximize this as much as possible. Lastly, I have Goddess of the Hunting. Rushed is an obvious choice. You move a lot and the added speed is nice, plus you're constantly moving to keep your Stalker charges up anyway, so the 35% additional damage. For how you're scaling the damage, for the most part, is entirely through attack speed. Flat damage added to your attacks. As for scaling damage, mostly what you want is just flat damage as much as possible. You scale a lot through attack speed, a lot through crit, and wherever possible through dexterity, although that's not a lot in the passive tree. Other than that, you just want to take crit chance, and a couple of blessing nodes here and there. So going through it, nothing here is insane. Damage, attack speed, some dex and damage, attack speed, crit, and more attack speed if you crit recently. On the marksman tree, we take life here. This node is actually kind of important, unless you have another way of regenerating mana. I take these 4 nodes. Yes, it's a 4-node investment, but also this fully fixes all of my mana issues. The only other thing that I have is the minus cost on a ring crafted, and that seems to be mostly enough for me. As you might have noticed, we scale mostly through projectile damage. So if you can get a lot of flat, even if it's not erosion, it is still a benefit, more so than if we were scaling entirely through just increased erosion damage. It's not as much as just flat erosion, but it's still a good and extra to get on your gear. Other than that, dexterity, crit, some regain. I always find it nice when playing an attack build. An extra layer of regeneration is always nice to have. Attack speed, multi-strike, life. Here I take a couple of agility, blessing nodes. It's nice to have some generation for them. It feels pretty good in my personal opinion. Lastly, ranger. This is where you'll get most of your crit and crit multiplier. You also take some maximum life here. I take some damage here to also get this small node. We're already wanting to stay in melee, so this just again adds on top of what we are already wanting to do. Attack, projectile damage. I take some resistance here to ease up on the demand for my suffixes on my gear. Damage, weapon critical strike rating is very good. Here we take fervor effect, also very good. Crit strike damage per fervor rating, very nice. If you have 100 critical, 100 fervor rating rather, this will add up to 20% crit strike damage, if my quick math is correct. And lastly, some cull, always nice to have in any build. My statue to the new gods. It's not optimized, because optimizing this would be extremely expensive, so much so that I don't really want to go that deep into it. There's other upgrades that I would rather have at this point than this, although if you have the currency, by all means. So to begin with, I take Pedigree of the Gods with quick advancement. We multi-strike a lot, and this is a very, very good node. I just took this with any other mod that I could find that was beneficial for us. So in this case, it's the attack speed. It's not massive. And if you can get this with something like Judgment, which gives you paralysis on a hit, if I remember correctly, it is phenomenal. But I couldn't find that, and anything else was extremely expensive. I bought this for like 15C, so it was a nice catch. All the other ones, for the most part, crit, multi-strike. I get my pen from here as well. There's some on the tree that you can get. I believe in marksman tree. Here, yes. So if you cannot get that on the statue to the new god, just grab these nodes instead. Other than that, dex percentage is very good here. And then just add other things that are beneficial for our build. All of these have been crafted by me, because obviously you cannot buy them crafted, in case you don't know. So yeah, this is for the most part what I've been working with on the passive side. Now, very important, let's look at our hero traits. I would say all of these are locked in. It's always, so these two are not a choice, so I'm not going to talk about them. Have fun. Very important. You gain attack speed per stack of Stalker, and stacks of Stalker are very important for us. Catwalk, also very good, means that we don't lose our Stalker after multi-striking. This is mandatory. There's no way we can play the build without this. We cannot justify in any possible way losing our Stalker charge every time we multi-strike. We would do nothing else other than just run around to try and get our stacks back. And lastly, Cat's Vision gives us another 3 max cat's agility, another 3 Stalker charges, which massively increases our attack speed. Here I just have attack speed and maximum life. You could take crit damage, crit chance, attack speed, projectile damage. Projectile speed also scales your damage, don't forget, because you have Gale on the passive tree. So lots of choices here. Optimally, I really would like to have increased effect for my memory, but I don't right now. And I would want that because I'm using 3-star shootings, which increase how much dex they give me per star shooting engraves, because I have 3 right now. This one, for example, is giving me nearly 90 increased dexterity. Very, very important. These can be very expensive at the high end. These are nowhere near max rolled, by the way. These are pretty middle of the row, if not bad. So, if you have the money, go for a 30 and plus.
As long as Erika run, nobody can catch me when I start running.
For the skills on the tree, I have Corrosive Throw. Erika, please, can I speak? Thank you. Right, for the skills, I have Corrosive Throw, multi-strike, crit strike damage, erosion penetration, added erosion damage, wind proj. I would say nothing here can be swapped. Maybe, if you have bad crit right now, swap crit strike damage with crit chance. But as soon as you get decent crit chance, or you feel like you're critting enough, swap this for damage. It's much better. These are the supports you should be using. Next, Spiral Strike. Also incredibly important. You need a movement skill with Erika, otherwise you're not gonna get any damage, because it's gonna be extremely awkward to keep your Stalker charges up. I have it with Harden for an extra defensive. Quick Mobility, Mark, as Mark is very good for any crit build, and Periodic Burst for an extra bit of attack speed whenever possible. Restoration skill, always nice. Berserk, Emergency Restoration, Residues. Here, Fixate, I pop this, and Burst of Anger, both of them. I pop them whenever I get to an elite for the most part. This one has Ceaselessness to increase the uptime on it, and this one is with extended duration, and both are linked to cooldown reduction and well fought battle. For auras, I run Precise Projection with Elemental Resistance, Erosion Enchantment, and Restraint. The Restraint here, I don't believe is actually necessary. Yeah, it isn't. It gives you a little bit more leeway with your mana. Plus I was testing a bunch of stuff with sealed mana to see if I could fit another aura or not in. At the end I figured it wasn't really necessary, so this is what I ended up with. Lastly, I have a cast on Crit Strike. We crit a lot, so this is basically always on the enemy. With Corrosion, Abysmal Hatred, and Seal Conversion. As you can see, you can kind of fit it in, right? If you don't want to reserve your health, there's no reason why you can't just do this and activate it on your health, or sorry, on your mana instead. But it's gonna be a bit awkward. Maybe not actually. Maybe not. I was wrong. So, you can use this. Wait, hold. Yeah, there you go. Like, I cannot activate Fixate or Burst of Anger whatsoever. So, realistically, maybe if you get an extra bit of sealed mana here somewhere, it might be worth considering. But as of right now, for me personally, I would just go with Seal of Conversion. Not this one. This one. Cool. Finally, for the gear. Starting with the gear, there's a lot of pieces here that I've swapped around and played with. All of these I've used at a given point. So this is what I'm going with right now. These are my stats. I have nearly 2k dexterity, a lot of dex, 4k health, not a lot of health. Resistances are fine. I would like to cap my erosion because there's a ton of erosion damage in the game right now, but this is where we're at. So I have Opening Heart. This is what giving us fervor. Also dexterity, some life, evasion. The corruption is not necessary. So this helmet, I don't actually believe there's any right now on trade. Yeah. I bought it for 200C when it was 200C uncorrupted. And lucked into corrupting this, and I saw one selling earlier today, or a couple days ago maybe, for about 1,100 FE. It's not necessary, just use the base version, it's fine. Right, if you get a corruption on Dex, that's also nice. Don't worry too much about the corruption here. But also, you deal 30% additional damage against nearby enemies, another reason why you want to stay in melee as much as possible. Next, the chest piece, also a very important piece for Dex stacking purposes. So you take a bunch of reduced damage, up to 30%. Reduced lightning damage if you have 1.5k dexterity. I corrupted it to try and hit the corrosion here to try and get up to, I believe, 50% increased dexterity, which would be very good. I didn't, and I tried a couple of times now. I didn't get it, so I settled for this one right now. Next, these gloves, just a bunch of resistances. If you can get some flat in the implicit, that's not bad. You can also get a pair of gloves like this that gives you mana restoration on hit, and you can skip the 4 points on the 3. I didn't have a pair that I actually wanted to use, so I ended up getting the points on the 3. The neck piece here, just attack speed implicit is nice. There's also dexterity implicit. You could look to use that. This one is pretty decently rolled, so attack speed, erosion resistance, which I don't have a lot, dex, +1 erosion skills, all great stuff, and life. Belt, dexterity again, best base, life, resistances, dex, whatever else you can get. The boots, percentage dex is very good, +1 damage per 15 dexterity. Any of these corruptions would be very nice to get. I haven't been very lucky with those. On the rings, I have a bunch of resistance implicits. This one is pretty decent as well. I'd rather have health here instead of mana, but everything else is pretty good. -6 skill cost is quite nice to ease up on the mana costs as well. And then I have dexterity, stats, erosion resistance. Here, life, crit, resistance implicit, and a pretty shitty dexterity roll actually. Hopefully I can swap this for something more useful pretty soon. I also am looking to swap my amulet, even though it's a pretty good amulet, for a unique that I'll show in a second. Lastly, my weapons, I just upgraded these. They're not fully crafted, but they are very good. You're mostly looking for this node here, or this line here that says adds 2 to 4 erosion damage to attack per 12 dex. This is the basis of the build, and you're looking for 2 daggers with those, and as much dex as you can. I got very lucky. I bought this base for 1 FE, and this one for 20 FE with the dexterity already, and I lucked into another dexterity roll. So these are going to be nearly perfect weapons for this build. Again, just take whatever you can get and look into upgrading as much as you can whenever you get some extra currency. Now let's do a quick showcase for the build. I'm just gonna do tier 7s as tier 8s are still a bit heavy in the survival side. I die maybe once or twice per tier 8 if they're a bit juiced. Sometimes even if they aren't, it's just a very dangerous place to be for the build right now. You can clear it, it's just not ideal right now. And plus you've cleared through tier 7s like a breeze. So hopefully I can show that here. You can mostly do any empowers from rolling your maps. You should be fine with anything really. Alright, so you load in, you hold your right click button down, and you dash through everything. And that is mostly all you do. And everything dies, you collect all the goods. It's super fast. If you take any damage like that, you can just use your restoration skill or wait for your regain to make it do its thing. And otherwise, just loot. Just look for the loot, baby. Dash through everything, get to the boss, pop your 2 buffs as Fixate and Burst of Anger. And roll also. Ooh, do I have a bride here? That would be nice for the showcase, wouldn't it? Would be very nice to see. We'll have a look in a second. Do we? Oh no, one off. Unfortunate. Oh well, next time maybe. But it's also a very quick fight at this point in the character's lifespan. Roll for the cube. Nothing good as per usual. And we're out of there, baby. And yeah, that's mostly it that I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoy. For a little bit, the videos on Torchlight are gonna slow down probably, as I'll be partaking in the release of Diablo 4. I'm very excited for that. I'll be casually playing through hardcore, if it would be very nice to potentially be one of the first 1,000 people to max level, but I'm not holding my breath. I haven't played the game before, so I don't know what to expect, other than the betas, obviously. But yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.